One. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis. Today, very grateful to be joined by BIba Tanya. Not many of my listeners will even know who this woman is, but after today, they will walk away with a lot and a very powerful story, and they'll walk away with I feel, a lot of inspiration and a lot of motivation to, especially my younger women that listen to this, they'll walk away with a lot of things to ponder and a lot of empowerment. So, Biba, welcome. Who are you? What do you do? Like, I already know that, but my listeners won't. So, who are you? What do you do? And take the floor.
Oh, okay. Well, hi to everybody listening. Thank you to Nathan for having me. In a nutshell, I'm a 44-year-old mother of three. I live off grid in the south of Portugal with my two youngest daughters, who are one's almost 11, the other's 7. Neither girls have ever been in school. They've never been seen by a doctor. My youngest was actually free birthed at home 7 years ago. She's never been seen by anybody, midwife, health visitor, anything. So, needless to say, they're both completely unpoked, as we say. We don't like to use the V word. Um, and yeah, in 2020, to give you to give your listeners a brief, super brief summary, because I can talk hours on this, and I'm always more than happy to. But a super brief summary is that in 2020, I was already quite awake, as we like to say. I was already free birthing at that point and made the commitment that my daughters were never going to go into school. And a little caveat to that, one of the reasons behind my awakening is I've got an amazing 20-year-old son who lives in the UK, and I co-parented with the system for him. So he had his pokes and he went to school, and I watched his spirit and his physical health degenerate as a result of the direct poisoning that I was inflicting on him. So I'd already, by the time 2020 came around, I was already sort of awake, as we'd say. And I was living on benefits in the UK. I was doing a little bit of mainstream work. So I was a broadcast journalist. And they'd wheel me out as the token crunchy mum. So if you ever needed an anti-vaxxer to go on like ITV, I was the one they'd wheel out. And it was very it was very bizarre. But that was my sort of my job, if you will. And I was also at uni. I'd gone back to university as a mature student to study journalism, because I was really sort of in this activist mindset of I'm gonna be the one to get the truth out there, and like I'm gonna be the one to give a platform to Dr. Wakefield. And I was yeah, I was a bit of an activist. And I'll never forget, it was the 16th of March 2020. So I watched the televised address that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the UK, gave at the time, and he announced that we were going into lockdown. And I immediately, it was the beginning of my relationship of really understanding that there is a divine creator, there is a divine source, that there is a divine power that is God. But I just got this sort of direct hit of, you need to get your children into the country. And I was having visions. And I now know that I was super paranoid and super down the rabbit hole. But I was having these sort of visions of the army coming and rounding up, anyone that wouldn't take a poke. I immediately knew it was heading for a poke. And from the six, I knew immediately that that's where this was heading. There wasn't. It was you. And it was so bizarre because everybody online now says that it's nonsense, but back then it was so isolating. And I was living on benefits. I had £150 in the bank on the 16th of March, and my income was £200 a week that I was receiving from the government in the form of something that was called child tax credits. And I thought, I need to get me and my kids out of this country. We need to go now. And I made a vow before God. And I didn't even really believe in God at the time, but I made this vow before God. And I said, I'm getting me and my kids out of this country before the summer solstice. And that's the 20th of June. So I gave myself like 3 months. And super long story short, but I did it. I got me and my kids out. We first landed in Crete. Had the best. Highly, highly, highly recommend, if there's ever another global lockdown, go traveling. All the beaches are deserted. It was just amazing. Miracle after miracle happened. we went to Crete. We lived in Crete for a while, and then I felt the pull to come to Portugal. Came to Portugal. Wasn't easy. We were homeless for 12 months. I say homeless, but we were like bouncing around Airbnbs. We never slept on the streets, but we didn't have a home. And then the whole time, and I thought I was just trying to keep myself sane, but the whole time I had this vision of where I was going to raise my girls. I always get emotional telling this story. I'm sorry to listen. But I had this vision of this home, and I was like, I know where I'm going to raise you. It's in the middle of nature. There's nothing but trees everywhere. There's a natural swimming pool. You're going to be barefoot all the time. You're not going to know any nonsense. You're going to be protected. You're going to be happy. There's going to be goats. There's going to be chickens. I could see it. I could see it so clearly. And it got to December 20. So we left in June 2020. It got to December 2021. We were in our 10th Airbnb of the year. I was down to my last like £100. I can go into income if you like, but I was selling ebooks, and I was affiliating for anything I aligned with. Just money was really sporadic, and it was Christmas, and I thought I need to call this a day. I need to go back to UK and just say, okay, I was wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. And super long story short, but I was invited to a play date, walked onto this land, and it was this house. It was the house and the land I'd had in this vision. And I couldn't speak. I was like, this is my house, this is my house. And again, long story short, the landlady asked me to move in next door. We've been living here ever since. I then really got serious about building my business, and I've now built a multi-six-figure business that I can just run from my phone. My children we're in a homeschooling community. I created a whole new life for my children. People say I didn't take a leap of faith. I was pushed. The whole COVID pushed me, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me, to my family. And I always go back to that because I will never forget just how desperate and terrified I was in 2020. And I thought that what was happening, the pandemic, I thought it wasn't just the worst thing that had ever happened to me and my children. I thought it was the worst thing that had ever happened to the world. I couldn't fathom what I was seeing, not because I thought there was an invisible pathogen floating around, because I was so terrified of this, this agenda that was so clearly pushing forward and garnering speed. And I now just see it as the best thing that ever happened to the world, to humanity, to all of us. It exposed everything. It caused such a phenomenal shift. It made me see clearly. I could tell you a story of how I have now experienced seeing two different frequencies existing completely side by side.
Yeah.
Where sometimes they're so varied that the other people can't see each other, and I've witnessed that. It's as though there's an invisibility cloak on. And I now will always go back to that feeling whenever something feels like it's so. I love what Joe Dispenza says. Like whenever you're facing a problem and you think, oh, I've got two options. I need to do this or this. Joe Dispenza's like, there's always a million other options in the quantum that you couldn't even think of. Like, it didn't seem a logical option to be this penniless mum on benefits with £100 in the bank. It didn't seem to be a logical option to say, okay, go abroad and start a new life. It's like, I didn't think planes were running. I thought borders were closed. And I know you can't close a border. I thought borders were closed. I didn't know how I was going to make an income. I was taking two little children with me. They were 2 and 5 at the time. It's like, I'd seen Taken. I didn't have Liam Neeson to ring if we were about to get sold into some, it wasn't a logical choice for me to take. And I didn't tell a single person that I was doing it. Other than 2 people had to know. One was my son, who I begged to come with me, but he thought I was, and I quote, a mental hippie. He's since come around to my way of thinking, but at the time he was like, you are a mental hippie, mum. He stayed behind with his father, by the way. He listened to his father. I wasn't deserting him. But then the other person obviously had to know was the father of my daughters, who again, I begged to come with me, and who again, I was told, you are a mental tinfoil hat wearing, you're insane. And I didn't tell anybody else. And because I knew to say it out loud, so I knew what everybody else's reaction would be. It was like, no, I'm a single mum, I'm going to take these 2 kids, I have no money, I've no plan. It's a global pandemic. It's a lockdown. They say, I mean, everyone was. It's essential travel only. Like that was branded into everybody. And I remember what was so funny was I was so scared driving to the airport, and the roads were eerily quiet during lockdown. And I was so scared because I thought what I was doing was illegal. I thought I'd been able to book the flight. And that was the only thing. And I thought, oh, I can't have booked the flight. The flight's not running. And I got to the airport and I'd prepared myself for a fight. I prepared myself for what I was going to say. I'd concocted this crazy, crazy story. And I was, I was really preparing myself. And I just walked into the airport, and the airport was bizarre. Every shop was shut. And there were only like, say, one every 10 check-ins were open. It was like an apocalypse. So it was really eerie and quiet, but it was open. And when I'm walking towards the gate, I was preparing for this like battle, and the woman was just like checking it in. I was like, yeah. She's like, going to Greece, girl. It was so easy. It was so easy. It sort of, I realized then in that moment, I was like, oh God, everything you're just being told, you've really got to read what they're saying. It's like, it's essential travel only. It's like, yeah, okay, well, it's essential for me that I go. So I'm doing, yeah, okay, agreed.
Mm.
And it's, your words are spelled, words aren't creative, and words aren't descriptive. They're creative. I always remind mothers of that when they're complaining about their children, or women of that when they're complaining about their husbands. I hate hearing it because I'm like, you're not describing with your words, you're creating with your words. Like a mother, especially if you speak negatively about your child, you have the power to summon that version of that child forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, watch your words. My kids have never heard me say I'm sick. And I have been in some situations where I've been bedridden. In 2023, I'm happy to talk more about this as we go further on. But for 10 years, I had huge silicone breast implants. So I'm 44 as I sit here today. And from ages 28 to 38, I had these huge silicone breast implants in. I've gone completely lost my train of thought where I was going. I suddenly started talking.
You were
Oh,
bedridden in
sorry, that's right.
2023. Yeah.
No, yeah, spells I speak. And I had them taken out when I was 38. But in 2023, I started suffering from all these symptoms that I believe, had I gone to doctors, would have been labeled as lymphoma. I had this lump in my neck. I was losing weight rapidly. I was dripping in sweat. And when I'd had my implants removed, they told me that they were both ruptured and that there was silicone, like rose silicone, floating around my body. So I tick all the boxes.
Yeah.
And I've been bedridden for weeks and weeks. So, it's not that I've mastered health, but even in those situations, my kids will only hear me say, Mummy's moving through a healing cycle. When
Love
they
that.
are sick, that's sick in inverted commas, that's what I will say, you're moving through a healing, darling. We will never cast that spell, we're sick. I'll never say to them, this is a great one, by the way, for anyone who wants to start mastering money energy, the energetics around money. But I will never say I can't afford that. So we joined a sailing club when we moved to Portugal because I've become obsessed with the thought of, I think that gives you real autonomy, just being able to just take to the sea. And if I'm in a sort of particular mood, I'll often go boat shopping. Like there's boat shows on here all the time. And I'll be on like £2.5 million yachts, and Tabby will say, "Are we going to get it, Mummy?" And I'll say, we are going to get it one day. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we are going to get it one day. I will never say I can't afford it. If my kids ask me for something and it's something I don't want to spend the money on because it's plastic shit, I will say we're choosing not to buy that right now. But if in my head it's something I can't afford because it is out of my price range right now, I'm choosing not to buy it right now. Start casting that spell instead, because what that's saying out in the quantum is, no, it's mine and I am going to be able to exchange money for it one day. But right now, I'm choosing not to buy it right now. Rather than saying you can't afford it, because it's just, well, guys, like I said, words aren't descriptive, they're
Yeah.
creative. If your listeners take nothing else from this, please take that.
It's a huge spell in it. And that's, yeah, words are very much, I've changed completely everything that I used to say. And you sort of go on that journey and then you sort of like, you pull yourself up. You're about to say something that you know that you, and you're like, then you just reframe it. Yeah, it's pretty, yeah, like everything of all this stuff we aren't taught in schools. Like there's a reason why it's called spelling in school, right? Like they always tell you to.
Mm. But I
But
noticed it. I've really noticed it with the youth. I sound
yeah.
like such sort of an old person when I say that, but I hear it with my son when my son comes to visit. So he's 20, and the vocabulary of that generation, particularly, everything's sick,
Mm-hmm.
everything's sick. And I've noticed, a lot of influencers do this. If something's good, they'll put "I'm dead," and they put this like it's like "I'm dead." They're saying it like if it's
Yep.
something's funny, if something's really funny, and "I'm dying" and "I'm dead"
Yes.
are two phrases that I've said now. I see wellness influencers saying it. They'll like
Same
share
here.
this really funny satirical, and then they'll put "I'm dead" with the skull and crossbones, and
Yes.
I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
people,
I see it
please,
too.
like, just.
It's
And
not.
when you do start to realize the power of words,
Mm.
it's they really hit you. What did my daughter said? My daughter's playing with something the other day, and she came out. She said, "Oh, that's a death trap," and I said, "What have you heard?" Because like the minute she said it, I heard the spell. I was like, "Death doesn't trap you." I'm like,
Yeah.
nothing can do it. And there's so many words that have been. I know Jay, like I know we're both students of Jason, and Jason goes like heavy into this with like words and everything means something. But it really fascinates me how they do this, how they drop it into modern culture. Like I said, I'm 44. You never said I'm dying or I'm dead or that's sick.
Yeah.
That wasn't my teenage language. So when was it dropped? Where, do you know what I mean? It gets dropped in by like Hollywood or
Got
these
dropped in when I was a
popular.
teenager. I'm 30, so around 15 odd years ago, that's when it started. So I remember saying, "Oh,
Okay.
that's fully sick, bro," was like the thing I used to say when I was younger.
So
Yeah.
that's so interesting. We can trace like the time
Oh yeah.
so it came into because I read a lot to my kids. Any homeschool parent listening, so I'm a radical unschooler. So we don't, very much child led. But one of the rules have is I read to them every single day, and we read a lot of Narnia, C.S. Lewis, Narnia. Again, highly recommend for any unschooling families. But there are so many words in when I'm reading these stories that I've realised I don't hear a lot of anymore, and it's words like valor and honor and
Mm.
dignity. Like
Yes.
I can't remember the last time I heard those words used. I've got this really weird habit. So since I started making good money with Tango, I go on eBay and I buy the oldest dictionaries I can find. The latest one I've got is from 1856. It's falling
Jesus.
apart. It's magnificent. But it's so interesting to see what words are no longer in use. And
Yeah.
like, guys, mark my words. Mark, like, if you're listening to this in May 2025, come back to me in 50 years, and I bet we've lost words like valor and words like dignity because I swear I'm not hearing them in any. I mean, I purposely only read my kids the classics because you can't buy decent kids' books anymore. They've all got
Yeah. Yeah.
this narrative running through them that just revolts me. So like I said, things like C.S. Lewis, Enid Blyton, I read a lot of them. The Anne of Green Gables, Secret Garden, Black Beauty, or brilliant, brilliant classics. Like I said, there's these words that are just repeated over and over again that we do not hear anymore. And these are kids' books,
Mm.
and these words have been like dropped from culture, dropped from society. It's sad, and it's
Mm.
indicative of where we're heading.
Mm. Very true. Just a part of your story. So you've mentioned how 2020 changed and shaped your life. There was a part of your life before then when you had the breast implants. Did you want to go down that path now? Because I feel like a lot of young women
I'm
A lot of young women have the OnlyFans and all that stuff, the Instagram where they're shaking it all and have not much on. So it's interesting that
I
you
know, I
were
know, I know
ahead of
it's
your
really,
time
I
here.
know it's really trying to direct me down here, and I'm happy to go down this route. So yeah, like I said, 44 is so when I was 19 years old, my first job was as a lap dancer. I got straight on that pole. This was way before like anyone was doing pole fitness for for a
Oh, true.
second.
Yeah, that's a big one now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was always been a pioneer. And I started lap dancing at 19, and actually, I'm just gonna sidetrack. No, I won't. I'll come back to this point. I started lap dancing at 19, and it was a hop, skip, and a jump before I came what we like to refer to in the industry as a high class escort. But as I like to remind anybody, a hooker is a hooker is a hooker. You can dress it up all you want. Ho is ho. Ho spells ho. So, but I was the one who, if there had been Instagram back in that day, I'd be on like 1.5 million follows by now because I was getting flown on the private jets and I was VIP in all these Ibiza clubs and
Hmm.
have had kiss and tell with celebrities. I was doing it, let's say, as I was doing it the right way. I wasn't trying to feed a drug addiction. I was promoting, good family, all the rest of it. Here's why I chose prostitution, and it's the exact same reason that every single young woman right now is heading down the OnlyFans route. I'm going to blame my father, and it's not daddy issues. But again, so when I was growing up in the early 80s, early 90s, I had it drilled into. I remember really wanting a baby at 14. I
Okay.
remember at 14, really, really, really wanting a baby. I remember reading these, and my mum's friend had like my mum's childbirth book, and I was reading it and looking at the pictures, and I was really, really, really wanted a baby. And I remember not even daring to say that out loud because I was getting told repeatedly from the age of starting school that I was such a good student and that I was going to go on to get such a high-powered job. So I started having that really drilled into me. I was going to be a lawyer. You're going to be an amazing lawyer, BIba. You're a smart girl. You're brilliant at English. You're brilliant at debating. You're going to be a lawyer. And I also had my dad drilling into me at the time how lazy my mum was for not working. He used to tell it me all the time. She's so lazy. If there was anything about her, she'd go out and get it. She didn't need a job. But I remember growing up with that real feeling of I needed to make my own money from a very early age. I needed to be like independent, and that the ultimate goal was to be one of these like boss babes, one of these in the suits and going out in the city every night. And I really, really, really had it dropped into me. I had my first sexual experience at 17 with a guy at the time was my long term boyfriend. I've been dating him for like 12 months, and I lost my virginity to him. And it was awful. I hated every moment of it. And I remember coming home and writing in my diary that night, if I you'd have to pay me to do that again. And I remember I had no interest. Me and him broke up. I didn't have any, so I'd slept with one person. I start lap dancing. Hops like it's a very slippery slope. There'll be a guy there one night. You'll be getting on with him. You'll find yourself. This is how but FYI, this is how every girl I know started. But there'll be a client that you'll actually be vibing with. You'll be getting on with him, and you'll turn to him and go, 500 quid, come on with me, and you do. And the first time that happened for me, I sort of had these two sexual experiences to compare. And one was this one where I'd lost my virginity. It was painful. I was in agony. I cried all the way through. Like the whole thing was just, I hated it. And then I'd had this experience after this second one to compare it to, where I was really drunk, had all the confidence in the world, and then walked away afterwards with £500. It was in a really nice hotel room. And I literally made this decision, this really conscious decision of, I've got something here that I can become really rich with, and it's the way I look. I knew I had this look about me and this aesthetic about me that I could monetize. and you will only ever go that route, FYI, if you've got if there's some serious worth issues lacking. But I see it now. I see the programming that's happening. You only need to go on the Daily Mail. I find it bizarre that they do this. It's so blatant, but you only need to
Yeah.
go on something like the Daily Mail. There'll be an article about how much an OnlyFans girl has earned.
Yes. At least twice a week. At
At
least.
least
Yes.
what's that
Or well, what about
for?
the ones?
It is not counting.
What about the ones where they will promote an OnlyFans woman for going into the old people's homes and rooting all the old people, or they'll do a story about what an OnlyFans content is
They
as
are
well.
they're
Mm.
constantly reporting on it. They'll start off as though it's some like expose, like, isn't this awful? This girl, like I said, this girl's just gone through the OPs. But you go to that
The
third,
article, yeah,
fourth
it's not
paragraph,
that.
I guarantee you, like Lily, who earned 18 million in her now. A generation of women have now been brought up to believe that two things: if they want a man to look after them, they're a gold digger. But
Mm.
it is really aspirate. But it is really aspirate. I still have. I one of my greatest hopes, dreams, and prayers for my family is that I call in my divine union. I've been consciously celibate now for 5 years. I am very, very aware that the biggest disservice I do my children is that they do not have the protection. That this whole house is not under the protection of a man. It is my deepest desire for my family. However, you've got these girls at the minute who are stepping into they can't see that they're being programmed. You've got the Kardashians and everything else who are telling you
Yeah.
that they're dropping this aesthetic and that, you need to buy the handbags, you need to buy this. They've started to equate that wealth, they need their own money. They're not under the protection of their dad. Their dad, it's just everyone's telling them they're a gold digger. Sorry, that's what I was going to say. I really want to pull in a divine guy. I still have blocks around the fact that I'd want him to provide for me because I immediately think gold digger. It's like, no, we've had that. Like, women have had that. Girls have had that really dropped in. They're really in a space now that this generation of women who firmly believe they need to go out and earn their own money, and they're being subtly told, and they don't even realize they've been subtly told it by everywhere they look, that selling themselves is the quickest way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're being sold this truly warped perception that actually it's empowering because it's
Yeah.
your body, your choice. And I know that argument. I hear Bonnie Blue because I do listen to these girls' interviews
Do you?
because it does. I hear myself from 20 years ago in them.
Ah,
If
true.
you'd have asked me at 30, when I'm strutting through a Las Vegas airport on my way to board a private plane with a 2 grand handbag on my arm, with 10 grand cash in my bag, that someone's just paid me, a celebrity's just paid me, someone you muggles would absolutely give anything to be screwed by. If you'd have looked me in the eye there and then and said, you're doing this because because you've no self-worth, I would literally have been like, bitch, you wish you were me. And now
Oh.
also, like, all I can see now is like pain and but I understand why these girls think that they are empowering themselves. I honestly do, because I understand so deeply how they have had it programmed into them that this is actually a good thing.
Mm.
Like, they've had it dropped into them that this is empowering, that they should be earning their own money, that this is the quickest way to do it, that it's truly satanic when you break it down at baseline, is that this message is getting delivered to young girls, and Instagram is feeding it. You think like you're letting your kids on TikTok and Instagram thinking that we've got all the parental controls, they can't even get on OnlyFans on our computer. We've got all the parental controls. No, but all those OnlyFans girls have Instagram accounts
Correct.
that they show aspirational content on. So no, they might not be exposing themselves on there, but they're still showing these lifestyles. If you like, they're driving in the top
Mm.
in the what's it called, convertible, boarding the planes, and they're making it aspirational. They're looking like Kim Kardashians, and they're making it aspirational. They're making
Mm.
the lifestyle aspirational. So you've got your 14-year-old on Instagram and you've got all the parental locks on the computer, and your kid cannot even access porn on that computer. But she's on Instagram, she's following these. Some of them even have Pinterest, for crying out loud. Like, when I say there's no escaping it, so you think you've got your kids on these like innocent things, not realizing that they are actually, when they start following these people, so let's talk word spells. Do you know what the word influence means? So in obviously means internal. The word fluence, everyone get your chat GBTs and Googles out while you're listening to it. The word fluence, Fluence, means to hypnotize. So
Yes, it does.
what you allowing to influence your children, you're allowing to hypnotize them. And I promise you that it's not harmless. My children have zero unsupervised internet access. They're on the internet right now. What's happened? I knew I had this call. We've arranged that they're going to watch a film. We discussed what film it's going to be. It's Prince Caspian, if anyone's
Yeah.
interested, in the Chronicles of Narnia. We discussed what film it's going to be. I know what they're watching. There's no scrolling. There's no adverts. You cannot. And I tell you what really pisses me off, when people sort of will give you the argument that, like, no, well, it's good that we give them a device now so that they can learn how to use it responsibly. It's like, I don't know adults that use it responsibly.
Mm.
I do, and the only people, and I don't believe anyone's using social media responsibly if they're consuming on it. I really don't. I think that once you understand how it works and
Yeah.
you understand that it's an even playing field, and you don't move yourself into that creator box
Yeah.
and say, no, I'm gonna use the energy that I have here. Like, don't get me wrong, I do consume on there, but it's very select accounts. I
Same.
know who I want to hear from. I know who I want to see from. I know who I want to learn from. They're only things that are going to educate me or inspire me.
Yeah,
And they're
same.
only people who are living a life that I want to live. So, leaders who are earning more money than I am, successful business owner, homeschooling mothers who have incredible marriages rooted in God. Like, I am only interested in following you if I can learn from you, and if you've got some aspects of your life that I'm aspiring to be. I'm not interested in consuming random algorithm bullshit nonsense. Even if it's showing me all the, in inverted commas, good stuff, even if it's just showing me nothing but homesteading and all the rest of it, I still don't want to sit there and mindlessly scroll. I will actively choose, like, I want to see what she's doing, and she's doing. Right, that's me out. Just use that space from a creator space. But you've got adults who are consumers themselves on these devices going like, no, it's okay. And it's monkey see, monkey do, isn't it? These habits are just getting like,
Yeah.
just like you didn't teach your kid to walk, you didn't teach your kid to talk or eat. You're not going to teach them how to learn to use the
Mm.
phone. They're just going to watch you
Yeah.
and copy you.
Yeah. And for me, like,
And end up on
just
OnlyFans. Don't let your kids on Instagram because it's just
like
a gateway to
when I was a
OnlyFans.
kid, when I was a kid, it wasn't even OnlyFans. Like, because I was growing up in the early 2000s, like, internet porn just came in and that was my hook. I was addicted to porn for like, not
Mm.
addicted, but it was like a habit for like 20 years.
I mean, it's
And then the
utterly, and
OnlyFans came in towards the end of, well, it came in towards the end of it all, and I was sort of hooked for a little bit because I was, still the porn habit, but far out,
because
like it trapped me.
by design,
Yeah.
it was designed
To-
to hook you in like that. And it's,
mm,
I used to be the OG crunchy mum. Okay, like back in 2015, 2016, I wouldn't even let my kids eat off plastic. It had to be certified organic, grass fed, but fucking all of it. And then, like I said, we ended up homeless and penniless in 2021, like bouncing around Portugal. And I was trying to make £5 last like 3 days, and we were just eating like fucking most hot, 50-cent hot dogs and all the rest of it. And it was that number one made me realize that actually, oh yes, always nourish yourself with the best foods available, but it's more about the mindset that you're in when you're consuming it. But I also
correct.
know another thing to be true, and that is when it comes to diet, when it comes to what you're eating or what you're spraying or what they're spraying or anything else, by and large, the organs that the good Lord gave you, your body will naturally detox from anything. Here's the thing with something that you see on a screen. You look at something on a screen, be it graphic violence, be it pornography, be it something that overly arouses you, anything, all of us, every single person listening to this right now can remember the very first time they were aroused watching something on a screen. When that happens, a neurological alteration takes place that there's no detoxing from.
Oh, 100%.
There's no detoxing from. You
Mm.
can take my kids and feed them a McDonald's every single day for 30 days and watch me reverse that damage. Take your kid and give them a screen and access to unfiltered adult content. You'll spend a lifetime trying to undo it. And God willing, like God help you, because you are literally then trying to, it's brain damage. Brain damage has occurred.
Mm.
It's not, there's no quick,
Nah.
quick undo for that. And when that penny dropped for me, like I said, I wouldn't even let my kids eat off plastic at one point. Now I'm like, yeah, you know what? We can detox from that. Do not go near that fucking screen.
Yeah. No,
Stay
I
away.
100%. Like, I'm still in the process of undoing that because that's, as I said
Mm.
on a podcast, a few of the coaches, that's like going to the gym and doing reps. That's a lot of reps of sexual content that I was consuming. Yeah. I'm still undoing
I
it.
mean, it's a journey for all of us. I like to remind people that, when they've woken up, when they're on their journey, that it's not a linear journey, or we only ever go deeper. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a spiral. And I remember, like, I had sort of my awakening in 2014, and I spent these like solid 2 years doing all the right stuff, right? And then I was like,
As you
and
do.
like I said, everything had to be certified organic, all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rest of
yep.
it. And I was like, why am I not superhuman yet? Like, why am I not realized? Because 99, it's like, I think is it Joe Dispenza that says, he's like, whatever point you are when you wake up, it's like you've got 38 years. It's gonna take time. These habits that have formed, these neurological pathways that have developed,
Yep.
these mindsets and beliefs that have developed. Like,
Mm.
we're all just a system of beliefs that we're acting out. So I like to remind people, you don't get to half believe something. You either believe it or you don't. And it's that
Mm.
belief that's going to get reflected back to you. And we're all just a system of belief. I held the belief. I realized during my 2020, like when I started making really good money, which didn't happen until 2022. So I'd left the UK in 2020. How we survived in hindsight, I do not actually know. But I do know it was with God. It was co-creating with God. Like when I say miracles happened, like we were gifted caravans, we were gifted jobs, also happened. But then I started making really good money, and I realized that I'd actually been carrying this belief for the longest time that like single homeschooling mothers who are hippies can't have a can't have a successful business. Like it didn't, because I'd never seen anyone do it. I'd never, like, anyone I knew that was successful, they had a supportive husband, or they weren't homeschooling, or they were like, they had a network around them, whatever. I hadn't seen anyone in my situation do it. And so I realized that I'd been carrying this belief that I wouldn't make it. And so it was reflected back for me. The minute I broke that, the minute I decided to, like, well, that's not true. That's not true. I can actually be a multimillionaire for one. Okay, I'll believe that. As soon as I started to like really work on that belief, like the seven figures haven't come yet, but if I keep going the direction I am doing, they're not far off.
So that's what's going to lead down this next question here. There might be some young women listening to this right now, BIba, and they're going, you know, they'll be asking themselves, or they'll probably put a question in one of the comments. They'll be like, how do I start? How do I start stripping these belief systems back? What was it for you that, like, what do you do to strip them back?
I work on them as they come up. But I think the most important thing that everybody needs. This is what I'd say to anybody listening, and this is just advice for anything and everything. Remember that how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Oh,
But you need a vision. You need something that you're aiming towards, and it can be anything. But I didn't realize pre 2020 how I had been coasting through life, just living the same day on repeat, and then suddenly I had a vision, and it was like, no, I'm getting me and my kid, we're gonna have this life in the sun. We're gonna, and like I said, I painted a vision in my head, and it was this house, and that's what was so bizarre when this house actually, because another thing I now know to be true, because I thought I'd imagined this house. What I now know is the truth. It was what I now call a future memory. So it wasn't my imagination; it was a future memory coming back to me. So what I thought was this wild, outlandish, crazy, crazy, crazy vision of me having this incredible house with this beautiful natural swimming pool. Like, people go on my Instagram and check my house out. It is, I live in paradise. I do live in paradise. And I thought it was a figment of my imagination. I now know that it wasn't. It was a future memory. But let that be true. Like, you can have any vision. My next vision's like me doing a world book tour. Like, heard it here first. It will happen. Your vision can be outlandish as you want it to be, and it can also be as simple as you want it to be. If you know, and like I said earlier, one of my biggest dreams at 14 was to have a baby. And no, I knew that if I said that out loud, it would be like, "Well, you're insane. You need to be a career woman. This is the 80s." Your vision can also be really simple. Your vision can be, I want a loving husband. I want as many babies as God's going to bless me with. I want to be spending all my days. And let me tell you, as a mum, there is nothing more fun than just like, that is how I spend my days. I can run I'm in such a brilliant position now that it takes me 2 hours a day to do my business max. I literally spend 6 hours a day just like baking and dancing and crafting. And it's like, being a mum is the best thing in the world ever, ever, ever. And so, maybe that's your vision. Maybe your vision is that you just want to have the most perfect, wonderful, amazing, amazing home. Whatever it is, maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to have a vision. Have a vision of yourself at your very fittest, at your very healthiest, at your very, very everything. And set that as an intention. Have an intention that's your vision. My intention was I was getting me and my kids out of the country. Here's the thing that's gonna make it all come true. And it's so simple, but it's not easy. Because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But once
Yeah.
you've set that intention, align every single thing you say and every single thing you do with that intention. That is literally the reality creation formula: is to align everything that you do and everything that you say especially. You'd be astonished. You'd be astonished how many times you bullshit yourself. I'll give you a prime example. I have a girl who does some work for me. She's sort of like a virtual assistant. And I saw on Facebook that it was a little boy's birthday, 5. So phone drop. I said, drop me your bank details. I said, I've just seen it's your lad's birthday. I said, I'm gonna chuck you €20. Get him go and get him a present from me. First thing she said, and it's 99% of adults say this. No, you don't have to. Everybody says
Yeah.
that. Now,
Yep.
right? No, right. Listen to me and really listen to me. And I'm not mean, I mean, everybody listening, really hear what I'm about to say. I know this woman's situation because she's in the same situation I was in 2021. That being that she's on her own, she's single, she's in a foreign country, and she's barely any money. I knew that about her. She's a friend. There's not a mother in that situation on earth doesn't wake up on his son's birthday or doesn't go to bed the night before the birthday wishing for a little bit more money. I don't care if you're Kylie Jenner, you could still use more money. Everyone could use more money on the kid's birthday. Fact. She will have sent that prayer out. She will have sent that prayer out, whether it's subconsciously or not. Damn, I wish I had more money. It's his birthday. The next day, answer to prayer is delivered in that somebody has felt just energetically because they want to. You can give some money towards this, and the first thing you want to do is block it.
Yeah.
No. Now, we can go deep into the psychology behind it. It's probably because you're a people pleaser with really loose boundaries and blah, 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 blah. But I pulled her up immediately. I said, do you want to know what the correct response should have been? She went, what? I said, oh, that's really nice. Thank you. Here are bank details. I said, let's try it again. I'm going to give you some 20 quid. I said, what are you going to say? She went, here's my bank details. I was like, because know that the person's not going to offer if they didn't want to, but this is beside the point. The point being that her first word, she'll have had the intention that morning that she wanted more money. Of course, it's kid's birthday. But the moment she was offered it, her words didn't match it and her actions didn't match it. She quite literally, energetically tried to repel it. when you set it as an exercise, and I try and say myself this exercise all the time, but like I literally try and ask myself this every morning, like take a moment before you speak the words. Are they in alignment with the intention that you've got? Or are you saying I'm sick, I'm broke? No, I don't want that. No. There's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant interview with a woman called Lisa Nichols, who I love. And similar story to mine, only she's several quantum leaps ahead of me. But single mom and create this amazing life for her and her kids. And she said she was on this business trip in Swahili, and she was talking to this guy, and they had a translator between them. And this guy turns to Lisa Nichols and he says, "There's an event tonight, and are you going to be able to attend?" And she says via the translator, "Oh, I'll try to be there." So the translator translates, and then he comes back to Lisa Nichols and he says, "No, there's an event at 8 p.m. tonight. Can you come?" And she says, I'll try to be there." And he turns around and then he comes back again. He goes, "Lady," he said, "there is no word in Swahili for try."
Yeah.
And she said it gave her this like lightning bolt moment of, oh, it's so true. She had no intention of going, but in Swahili they don't bullshit you. They'll just say yes or
Oh
no.
no,
Because
yeah.
what are you truly saying when you say I'll try? It's like, are you gonna do? I'll try. No, you'll do it. About whatever you're talking, whether you're talking about like beating a personal record at something, or whether you're talking about committing to something, you're either going to do it or you're not. Tries bullshit. Tries
Yeah.
another bullshit spell. Delete, delete, delete. You're going to do it. You'll do it. I'm not going to try and get out of the country. I'm going.
Mm. Good seed drop, because it's so true. Because I found myself doing that, but then you sort of go, well, no,
Spells,
I'm gonna be
man.
honest.
Those
I'm
spells.
gonna be honest with you. If I'm gonna say yes, I'll say yes. I'm gonna say no, I'm just gonna say no. But it's the uncomfortability of the saying no, and it ties back into what you were saying before. It's the uncomfortability of receiving that €20 or that $20 or that 20 quid, whatever country you're in. It's the uncomfortability of receiving, right?
And that invites you, and that's really an invitation then to ask yourself, like, well, why am I comfortable receiving? Because
Yeah.
if you're uncomfortable receiving, you'll be amazed what you're blocking.
I yeah, I
You've
know.
like, and we are uncomfortable to receive. It's a natural standard program that we've got, and this is something that I still really struggle with, and I'm still really working through. I firmly believe that one of the reasons I manifested and created such an incredible life at it was at quantum speed in respect, but I firmly believe that the reason I was able to do it was because I was doing it on behalf of my children, and I believe them to be worthy to receive everything and more. When it comes to me personally, I'm like, oh, oh, so I'm like, I haven't mastered this. If I'd mastered it, we'd be having this conversation. Like, I'd have flown you in on my private jet and
Yeah.
we'd be on my yacht in the Mediterranean. So, right, I've not mastered it. I'm not speaking to you people from a place of mastery. I'm a six-figure business owner. I want to be an 8, 9-figure business owner. Please do not think I've got this mastered. I have definitely got blocks around receiving. It would be my immediate reaction if someone said, "I'd like to give you something." I'm like, no, you don't have to. No. But if they want to do something for my children, I'm always like, "Oh my goodness, yeah, that'd be amazing. Thank you so much." It's
Yeah.
bizarre,
It is
but it's
bizarre.
actually it's kind of manifestation. It's a manifestation type of parents. Is that though? Like if you are struggling to feel that energy of being open to receive everything that God's got for you, like imagine it on behalf of your children.
What
That's
if
a
you don't
power
have
hack.
children? So what if someone young's watching this? Like, I don't have children. I'm like a sponge right now. What if someone younger than me's
Then
watching
it
this and they're like, Bieber, Nath, I don't have kids. So what do I do? I'll cop that
so
question
I
too.
mean
So let's answer it.
the thing that's helping me develop my self-worth the most is reparenting myself. So I think that a
That's
lot of it, I
a
think
big
when
one.
we are people with low self-worth, I think it comes down to that, it's these programs that we've developed in childhood. And what I've noticed, because I am a really good mum, and I do know that I'm a really good mum. And I started to ask myself if I would like my kids to do what I was doing. and it can be such simple habits. But I found myself, I've got some, I call myself sabotage coach. I've got some really bad habits. I still enjoy a spliff. I still really enjoy shit TV like reality house, Real Housewives.
My brother
So I
watches
have
that
still got.
garbage.
I'm so obsessed. Okay.
My brother watches that crap
Any of my
too.
girls listening?
My brother will
Any
love
of
that.
Nathan's
He's
listening?
he's in the next room now. He probably heard that. He watches that shit all the time.
I love. All right, Beverly Hills in New York. For those who,
He watches
who
these.
like
He
none of us have
watches.
this.
He watches the Orange County one. Geez, that's some shocking TV, I
Love,
tell you.
love a bit of Orange County too. Tamra is amazing. What up? So look, I've got my own bad habits, and I notice in these moments, how am I treating myself? Am I doing for myself what I'd do for my kids? And you've got to remember that discipline is the highest form of self-love.
Love that.
People recoil from discipline, and you need to understand that discipline is the highest form of self-love. Now, what you want to do is you want to start keeping promises to yourself, because it builds. Once you start understanding that you are a person that you can trust, it almost starts to increase like your inherent, you feel an inherent value when you start showing up for yourself. And it can be something so simple. So most people, they will sort of go to bed and they'll be like, right, no, tomorrow's going to be different. Tomorrow I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. and I'm going to do a cold plunge, and then I'm going to do an hour's meditation, and then I'm going to like eat a grass-fed steak and a 3 mile run. And then when they get up in the morning and they don't do all those things, they'll beat themselves up, and it becomes this vicious cycle of like
Yeah, yeah.
battering, and then you just feel yourself worth deplete. Start with super small habits. Even it can just be something as simple as every morning I'm going to drink water instead of coffee first. It can be something really that you know is bad for you, but what start to view yourself as a precious child. And like if you were babysitting a kid right now, if you've been given this kid to look after right now, could you do and it was doing everything that you were doing, would you be getting done for child abuse or not? Like would you be letting it sit scrolling mindless shit? Would you be letting it stay up really late? Would you be, like the number one health hack for anything has to be good sleep. Always has to be good sleep. And it's, you're right, I don't use sunscreen. I worship the sun. I have never put anything in my face. Okay. I do not have very many lines. And when I mean I worship the sun. I am face in it completely all the time. There's such a myth at the moment that the sun ages you. What actually ages people is being exposed to blue light after
Correct.
sundown, because it was never, ever the design. So you'll be lying there. You can wear all the fucking SPF you want. You can avoid the sun for the rest of your life. If you're staring at a screen every single night, inches from your face, in
Yep.
bed, these these habits are not the habits of somebody who loves themselves. Like I always say to people, don't try and if you try and get healthy because you've got to like you want to lose weight or you want to restrict yourself, you'll stick yourself in a loop forever. If you do things because you genuinely love yourself, it becomes so much easier. Like
100%.
I wouldn't, I don't want to eat shit because I love myself too much.
Correct.
I don't want to stay up late because I love myself too much. And it goes hand in hand. Build those habits incrementally and your self-worth will naturally increase. It really
100%.
will. And as for just like speaking the truth and saying like, yes, I want it or no, I don't, it practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Honestly, these things just become practice. The first time I ever made a video on social media was in April 2020, and I had no reason to make it. I wasn't trying to build an online brand. I wasn't trying to build a YouTube channel. I just had to tell people what I saw happening because I genuinely thought people were going to be like, well, I wanted to warn people not to inject their children. I was doing
Yeah.
God's work. But I remember like I was going, I got in my car because I didn't want my kids to hear what I was saying, and I was like shaking before I pressed record. And at least I've now gone on to make a career out of social media, and like I said, I'm a content creator, and that's primarily where all my money comes from because that's where I advertise. And for the first 6 months, anytime I went live on social media, I never went live. Actually, I never went live. I'd pre-record the video always, and I'd do it in about 3 takes because my voice would be shaking, and I would be feeling to force myself to do it. Now, I can literally, I will just go live whenever I feel I've got something to talk about. Like,
Yeah,
the point being, when you start just doing these little habits that feel really uncomfortable, but that are in alignment with where you want to be and who you want to be showing up as, they become second nature over time.
mm,
They truly do become second nature over time. But you've got to push yourself out your comfort zone. Nothing worth having is ever going to be found in your comfort zone.
100%.
Ever.
What
I
a
know that for a fact.
what a beautiful way to sort of start the wrapping up of this podcast. Like, I couldn't even put that any better myself. Like, yeah, lots of gold nuggets in that, BIba. Thank you for sharing all you shared today. There's a message for a young woman out there that might be on the journey or something. What would be your advice to that woman? You might have already said it, but to tie it all in a bow now, what would be your advice to that young person?
what I'd really what I'd really encourage everyone listening to do, and I hope what I'm about to say doesn't trigger anybody, because I know the word God does trigger people. And please know I'm not talking about God in a religious context. But what I do know to be true is that there has been a divine protective presence looking after me and my children
Oh,
since I first committed to what I believe is walking in obedience with God. Now, when I say walking in obedience with God, I mean when I've had an idea put into my head, even if it's made zero sense, I've acted on it with complete and utter faith. And I honestly do believe that what I wish I'd done sooner than ever is submit myself, is to develop a relationship with God. Develop a relationship with God, because there is a divine protective source out there. He will ask you to do things you might not like. He will ask you to give up alcohol. He will ask you to, because again, and I'm truly not coming to this from a religious point, and I don't want to put anyone off this, but the Bible truly does hold the greatest lessons. I say the Bible now, I've read it as an adult, is the ultimate manifestation guide, because it will tell you to speak truth. It will tell you to do things that will give you inherent value, such as not give yourself to anybody unless you're under the covenant of marriage, to not drink, to not devalue yourself. And if you can see yourself as an absolute child of God, because you are a child of God, you are a microcosm of the macrocosm. You breathe in what a tree breathes out. If you want to know how to see yourself as valuable, I've just told you. You're here because you're necessary. You're here because, like, of all the sperm that could have won, of all the eggs that could have won, of everything that could have happened, you're here. And you've got a God-given purpose. To anybody listening, begin developing that relationship now. Start to deepen. You've got a relationship with God, whether you know it or not, because you are a divine creation by the very fact that you're here. So start developing that relationship, because one thing I do know is that God's plan for your life is so much bigger and better than you could ever, ever. I could not have dreamed this big for the life I've got now. And so I now know that his plans for me are so much bigger than mine. And I know that he will continue to protect me and he will continue to provide for me as long as I walk in alignment, as long as I respect myself, as long as I keep doing the job I'm here to do. I believe the job I've been brought here to do is to protect my children, to lead by example, and to show them others there's a way that you can just parent your children intuitively. That no
mm,
doctor can tell you what to do with them, the government can't tell you what to do with them, no teacher can tell you what to do with them, God and God alone. God gave you them. There's only God
correct.
that can tell you what to do with them. And so that would honestly be my advice for anybody listening. Develop that relationship now, however you feel comfortable. Because again, to go into programming, there's a lot of programming out there that really blocks the religious indoctrination, especially, that really blocks people from a relationship with the
Mm.
divine creator that we have. You are a walking miracle, whether you want to believe it or not.
Oh, you are. That's a beautiful way to finish, BIba. Lots of seeds planted, lots of things even for me to ponder about my Kangan journey and all that sort of stuff too. So lots of things that I've taken away from this today that's going to help me as well. So I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people out there as well. It's a very awesome story that you've had, and look at you now, like it's a testament to doing that work. So thank you for sharing all you shared today. And I think part two will have to come before the end of the year, BIba. I'll have to get you back on for part two.
Perfect.
Especially as I keep going in the Kangen stuff, like get you on and talk about the water, basically. So that could be another one as well.
Oh, honestly, I could talk about the world in the business all day. Network marketing to anybody listening. Start looking at how to make a living online. An online personal brand is the most valuable digital asset you can have, and I mean
Um,
that better than Bitcoin, which
yeah,
I'm a huge fan of. But an online, no one can take it from you. No one can insist you need to do anything to get paid. You get paid for showing up, and the more authentic you are, the more you earn. I can
100%.
talk for an hour. We can come on
Yeah.
and do part two
We'll
for
have to
that.
come back on and do part two for the Kangen. Thank you so much, BIba. Where can people find you before we
Thank you
end
so
the
much, Nathan.
where can people find you before we end the show?
I am on Instagram as BIba_Tanya. I'm also on Facebook. I also have an incredible private membership where you meet with me twice a month. I do 2 live Zooms a week. You get access to me real time, real energy, ask me anything. And the whole membership is structured around the 13 natural laws of the universe, including the 5 biological laws of healing. Once you align with those laws, miracles happen.
I
So
love
you
that.
can all details Instagram and Substack BIba Tanya.
Love that. We'll put all those links to BIba's in the show notes. So check that out. Thank you all for listening and watching. BIba and I are out of here. It's 6:15 in the morning here, so I'm going to go to the gym. So thank you all for listening and watching. I'll talk to you all again soon. Cheers.